Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Atheist Reformation. Joining me tonight is a returning special guest, William Albrecht. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I am doing really well. How about you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. Glad to hear it. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but on January 29th, you participated in a debate regarding the Immaculate Conception with atheist author John Loftus at Armadillo Ale Works in Fort Worth, Texas, correct?
You're partially correct because you're kind of describing it in a bit of an advanced way, because when you hear Immaculate Conception, most Catholics think of the birth of Mary. But you're right. In Catholic theology, the birth of Christ is also an immaculate birth.
Right.
So yeah, you're 100% correct.
Right.
I'm just clarifying because you might have some people that might not know that, despite usually when you say Immaculate Conception, you think of Mary. You're 100% spot on. Yeah.
Right. Well, also when referencing Immaculate Conception, or at least in my experience, because I've got before becoming an atheist, I have a little bit of a diverse religious background as far as that goes. And so, like when I attended Methodist churches, they referred to just the birth of Christ as the Immaculate Conception. So that was kind of the commonplace thing, at least for me.
No doubt. No doubt. You're correct about that.
All right. Fantastic. Jose Cap, early commenter. How's it going, man? Glad to see you on here. Also, little mini celebration, I think. We hit 45 subscribers as of a couple of days ago.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. And it should continue growing. You moderate one more debate in reason and theology, and you probably have a few hundred of them.
Maybe so. Well, I mean, hey, if Mike wants me to jump in and lead that 3-ring circus again, I'm happy to do it. And I'm always happy to go on the show for those guys. Him, Craig, Elijah was one that I just recently became familiar with. Relatively new, younger guy. When we were talking with Deacon Suaden. I think you were on that one too.
Okay, yeah. I didn't remember if Elijah was on that one. Yeah, I remember that.
He was. He didn't have a camera. I still don't think he runs a camera. But hey, not everybody wants to have their face out there for the world to see.
I remember. Yeah. Deacon was on that one. I remember.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Suaden, I think is Suaden. I can never remember how to pronounce that guy's name.
I've got really no idea.
I just go with Suaden because it seems the most logical to me, given the structure of it. So, hey.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So tonight we're going to be reviewing not necessarily the debate itself. Unfortunately, the Bible and Beer Consortium has not yet posted the final cut of the debate on their channel, nor have they elected to.
They make it in such high quality that they go through every little detail.
Yeah, it takes forever to render stuff like that, especially when you put it out in 4K and stuff like that. Especially with YouTube's 1080 60 settings and whatnot, it can take time to render such a long video file, the insertion of graphics, scene changes, making sure those transitions are smooth.
I imagine it might be a little difficult because we're sitting there and they had a ton of cameras on us, so I'm imagining they have to edit from all of them. I have no idea. I would never know how to do that.
They're probably going to edit footage in from all angles just to kind of give different perspectives. I mean, all that camera work is really well done up there. They've really come a long way. Some of their best camera work I've seen in the last couple of years probably was, in all honesty, the Dillahunty Slick debate, because they had that nice big open forum. They were able to
Did they do that on the Bible Beer?
Yeah, Dillahunty and Slick is second. It was so Matt Slick did his little running crybaby thing where he refused to debate Matt Dillahunty ever again unless he took the affirmative position on something. And so they finally arrived at is secular humanism the best philosophy or what have you for the purposes of human flourishing
Yeah,
was
and
what
I,
that
I'm a
ultimately
theist,
came up
but
to.
I am definitely not a fan of Matt at all. Yeah, I think I'm definitely not a fan of Matt Slick at all.
I'm
No.
not a fan of any presuppositionalist apologetics. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Slick, he's at least tolerable. He's not. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. He's not the insufferable prick that is Saitan Bruggencate.
I don't know him. I don't know who that is.
He debated Matt Dillahunty. It's on the it's on Matt Dillahunty's channel. There was a debate between him and Cy Bruggencate. Cy is
Oh.
a hardcore presuppositionalist. He spends most of his debates asking, well, how do you know that? How do you know that? And all this other crap.
Very boring.
And in fact, to build most of his argument in that debate, he played clips that in some cases were like a decade old from the Atheist Experience TV show that he pulled off the YouTube channel. So he built his entire argument off of a straw man from the jump. And Bruggencate was so predictable in how he was going to handle things that Dillahunty wrote his rebuttal ahead of time. Something that you don't do in a debate.
No.
Like, you don't want to do that. He wrote it ahead of time. And it stuck hard every single point.
Yeah, and I have the one thing that I've noticed is, I will be completely fair. If perhaps I've got a book, because I've got John's latest book right here, but it is very
I need to read
possible.
that one.
It is very possible. It's available in Kindle, by the way. It is very
Really?
possible. Okay. It is possible John would have written a book 15 years ago, including maybe an article on evolution, and maybe as time went by, 15 years later, he might have changed his viewpoint. You know, and to be fair, for me to be a responsible debater, a responsible apologist, I should be aware of if he still holds to that position or not, rather than bringing it up and attacking what would be, in essence, what you pointed out to be a straw man.
Yeah, Dillahunty was always very clear about what his views were and when they shifted or changed.
Exactly, and for me, that was one of the things with John and myself. He had no issue with the fact that I told him all night long, I'm going to stick to your book, and I did that because to me, to be a responsible debater, stick to the material, don't hop elsewhere.
Right.
And I developed all of my cross-examination from his book.
Okay, well, that's a good thing too. Personally, I'm still in the middle of reading Jesus Christ Superstition by Robert Price, and I am really hoping to, once I get that finished, having Dr. Price back on the show so we can go ahead and like kind of get into the weeds on that book a little bit. Because
great guy.
Oh yeah, I had so much fun interviewing him. That was single-handedly probably one of the most fun videos I've done on YouTube. That wasn't the beer stream.
Can't wait to get back to that.
Oh, I know. Me too. I've got some personal changes that are going to be coming up in the next few, couple of months, hopefully soon. And
wonderful.
Then
for the better.
Oh yeah, definitely for the better.
Good.
It'll put me in a better position to have better backdrop. I'll have better acoustics. Going to be upgrading off of this dinky little Chinese microphone.
Oh, that sounds perfectly fine.
It sounds good, but I might as well admit it now. I also do have a band as a side project, and this mic is absolute crap for recording vocals. Because if I hit any kind of higher decibel volume, I've overloaded this thing just singing a couple of times, and so I definitely need to replace it, at least for that. But it'll also improve the overall quality of sound here. This is a good camera that I'm on now, but I want to get upgraded to one of the Logitech Brio 4Ks. It's got a larger focal plane and has better support for virtual green screens and stuff like that, giving me a few more options here and there, just kind of to up the production quality is really what I'm going for.
Gotcha.
And then also going to be purchasing a home gym setup soon.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Oh yeah, found an amazing deal from
that then.
Say what?
You're gonna get back to hitting the weights.
Oh, hard and heavy. For anyone who doesn't know, Titan Fitness right now, by the way, I'm not sponsored. I don't have any sponsorships or endorsements from anybody. I mean, come on. Why would I? I have less than 50 subscribers. Anybody watching that's not a subscriber needs to help me fix that by going and subscribing to the channel. But anyway, Titan Fitness, you can get for $799.99. Relatively low entry price. You get a Titan X3 power rack, an adjustable incline bench, a Blue City power bar, lifting bar, and like 3 sets of weight pegs for storing plates and stuff like that. You get that for just under $800, and they do free shipping for that size of an order.
Wow.
I'm also looking at possibly putting a little more into it and getting a few 100 pounds of weight plates because, well, even though I'm still my rotund self, going to Planet Fitness really isn't working out for me anymore because I've hit I've hit a ceiling when it comes to squats at this point in time, and it's not because of me. It's actually because of the gym. They only use Smith machines for squats, so it's that captive bar. And
that is a mess. That's a mess.
Well, it's I like them in and of themselves that they can really help a beginning weightlifter get their technique down before moving on to a free bar. I mean, they're great for building form and technique on that. So, and they were what was available, so I used them, and they've helped me immensely. But maxed out, that bought with the bar included only goes up to 615 pounds.
Wow.
And I've gotten to the point where I can move that one enough to where I can do like 3 sets of 5 reps, something like that. It's been a month since I've been in there, so I know I've atrophied since then and lost some of that. But I'm just kind of waiting for when I get my setup and then go back to hitting it hard and fast.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But enough about that. For what everybody came here to see tonight, we are going to be going over a video that was posted on February 1st by the Atheist Edge. The link to the video is down in the description below. We are not going to play the entire video. It is about 26 and a half minutes long. And like I said, we're not going to play the whole thing, but we are going to go through and pick up little snippets here and there and just kind of click through almost at random, just to kind of pull things like one chunk of context at a time and just kind of analyze and break those individual sections down a little bit. I'm not necessarily going to side with Loftus on everything, even though
right. And just to make one note for the audience.
Yes, please.
We had a few beers by the time we did that interview.
Well, it wouldn't be the Bible and Beer Consortium if you didn't.
Correct.
And plus, you're at Armadillo Ale Works. That is a fantastic bar.
Oh my goodness, have you been there? Tell me you've been there.
I have been there. They have one of the biggest selections of craft and imported beers in Fort Worth.
I wanted, you know what I wanted to do? I'm going to confess to you. I wanted to.
I'm
I
not your
wanted to.
priest, but go ahead.
I wanted to set up a bed there and just live there.
just
The
live in the
beer,
back next to the tanks.
the beer was phenomenal.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm just so disappointed that it is such a ways out from where I live. And even when I go, even if you go to Houston, it's a ways out. I mean, it's a bit of a drive.
Yeah, yeah, it
But
is.
wow, that beer, I've got to say, they are phenomenal. And they're award winning. They've won awards. I know
Yeah,
why now.
they have. Oh, another thing. You said you're you're going to Germany here soon, aren't you?
Yes, I am. That's correct.
Okay, and that's week after next, the week of the 17th and 18th?
Correct. I mean, I wish I could do a show that week, but I'm
Oh,
I'm
it's
going to be
fine.
out there.
Yeah, no. Well, are you going to be flying out of Houston or flying out of SA?
Probably San Antonio.
Okay, okay. Because I was gonna say, man, you hurt to Lufkin or something, and no, because there's Angelina Brewing Company right here in Lufkin. It's a newly open brewery. They haven't been open that long. They have some of the most phenomenal in-house brews I have ever come across. I mean,
Wow.
they have a French saison that's like an 8.5 or 9% ABV, and
I bet that's amazing, though.
it goes down like water. I'm not joking.
Oh,
Like that one that one would be a dangerous beer to just kind of sit there and drink. I had one sitting there. They have kind of like, pub food. They're kind of a gastro pub type thing. Their burgers are
cool.
actually really pretty good. But man, the beer hands down is top notch. Not to mention
I,
they have
I,
growlers on sale for like
ooh,
$20 or $25,
wow.
and you can bring them back and refill them as many times as you want. You just got to pay for the refill. So
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
it
not a
usually
problem with
costs
that.
it usually costs me like 18 and 25, or depending on the brew, up to 30 to fill the growler. So like the first time you buy it, yeah, it's probably $50-$55, but you keep going back and paying like,
Totally worth it.
15
Yeah, totally
$15
worth it.
for a refill and not have to buy the growler again. Yeah, no,
Right,
it's fantastic.
totally worth it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree with you.
Oh man. So anyways, like I was saying, this is the show from the Atheist Edge. I'm gonna make a couple of adjustments here. And nope, that one. There we go. All right, so you'll have to let me know if the audio's sharing like it's supposed to. Sometimes StreamYard doesn't do it even when you check the box. But I have not had that problem in like 2 weeks now, so I'm hoping that has been alleviated and that was like a temporary little bug thing for them. So this is right after.
Right after the debate.
Jesus' lineage in Luke, saying it traces back to Mary. I just looked it up. It traces back to Joseph also. Both of them trace back to Joseph. Do you want to rescind that?
No. It mentions Joseph, but he's not part of the lineage. I mean, yeah, no. It's acknowledge that Luke's genealogy traces back to Mary. We'd have to read it.
They both start with Adam, and they both end with Joseph.
No. Luke goes to Adam, and Matthew goes back to David or Abraham.
Oh, right. One's kind of a half lineage. Okay, so they both.
Okay, so let's kind of stop there just a little bit and look at just a few things there. So this is the patrilineage of Jesus according to Luke, and saying that Jesus's lineage went back to Joseph, but to me that doesn't quite make sense, even because I mean the whole concept of the Immaculate Conception. Joseph is the guy who raised him, sure, but Jesus would not necessarily share blood relation with all these individuals prior to Joseph.
Right, correct. Yeah, I don't think that was
That's what it sounds like that interviewer is saying a little bit, and I think Loftus is actually right in correcting him on that.
I think Loftus is partially right. I think what kind of got lost in the post debate was that it was a rapid, you got to go rapidly. And you do have different lineages, not in the sense that any of them contradict the other, but in the sense that some of them focus on a different aspect. Some of them tend to try and be even more complete. But yeah, I think that is what John was trying to do there. The only problem was in the post debate, we really, to be honest with you, the host told us we're going to go rapidly. We're going to be done in 15 minutes. So we tried to respond as quickly as we could.
Right.
A little bit of ours, if you notice, I talk really fast. A little bit of the responses are kind of really just straight to the point because we were so limited in time.
Yeah, they managed to get 26 minutes out of it, so I guess didn't. I guess they didn't hear the.
We went over.
The bar manager say they only had 15 minutes.
No doubt.
For doing that rapid fire.
By the way, for the people that may be watching right now, what you're watching is not the actual debate. It is a post-debate interview we had. We will have the debate. The Bible Beer Consortium will have it live. I'm hoping in about a week or so or less.
We're hoping, and as soon as we do, we're definitely going to hit on that. Also, to kind of give people a sneak preview of what you and I have planned is next week sometime. We're also planning on going through and reviewing the most recent debate between Matt Dillahunty and Mike Winger that was on, I think it was Capturing Christianity. It was.
We've got to do that. We have to.
Yeah. Pine Creek did a review on that one. That one went like really long, like 3 hours or so. So I'm kind of hoping to avoid going that long. I don't want to be too nitpicky on things, especially with that one, or even on this one once we actually get to review the debate itself. But more than anything, I kind of like to look at the opening arguments, the rebuttals, and I really don't tend to pay too much attention to cross-examination because, unfortunately, you've seen it, I've seen it, we've both experienced it in debates that we've had in the past. It just ends up being two people asking whatever gotcha questions they can come up with, and they ultimately talk past each other.
Yeah, and I think that is the job of a good moderator, though. They've got to prevent perhaps interruptions or what have you. I've had that issue before. Yeah, thankfully, I've never had a bad moderator. I've always had a very good moderator. I don't quite recall. You did moderate my debate with Loftus on the problem of evil.
Yes, I did.
You didn't. Did you ever have to step in? I don't recall that.
I had to step in maybe 2 times, and that was during Cross-X. But that was more as a timekeeping measure, more than anything else. I there was one time that you ran over. I'm like, hey, hang on. Time to move on, and then Loftus. I think we ended up just kind of conceding a little bit of time to Loftus because he didn't have that much more to actually say. It was only like an additional 10 or 15 seconds. So
I don't even recall that. But you didn't have to interject because we were,
no, y'all didn't get into a yelling match or anything like that.
Gotcha.
No, and yelling matches aren't really what I see more than anything else. It's more of people talking past each other. Interlocutors not listening to the question itself, and then they answer the question that they want to answer, not the question that was asked.
But
I see that happen on both times. On both sides.
I will add this though. From what I gather, you tell me if you think differently. I think when people do that, the majority of the time, I think they do that because they can't deal with the cross-examination question, and they're trying to divert attention away. I've seen theists do it a lot. I've seen atheists do it a lot. I think that maybe, perhaps, they're trying to kind of erect a bit of a smoke screen there, kind of to divert attention away from the fact that they aren't prepared to answer the question. And I'm going to point one thing out. We'll get to that next week, but I saw that a lot in the Winger debate.
Yeah, Winger did do that an awful lot in the Dillahunty debate, and in his
Yeah.
circumstance, yes, I think that actually was the case.
Yeah, because like Dillahunty was telling them over and over, look,
Yeah,
man, I don't really care for the scholars you're quoting. Give me the evidence. You know, give
exactly.
me give me the meat and potatoes. So this kind of strategy to be quoting a ton of scholars. Well, look, my scholar can beat your scholar up. Give me
N-
the evidence. I don't care
Yeah,
what you say.
exactly. At that point, it's just okay. Fantastic. You can appeal to authority.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
does that get the discussion? It doesn't get the discussion
nowhere,
anywhere.
nowhere.
It's like when Dillahunty debated Dyer, Jay Dyer.
You know what? I have yet to see that debate.
Don't waste your
I
time. Just
Yeah,
unless okay. So you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to laugh your ass off at just how inane Dyer is throughout the entirety of it, or
yeah. I wouldn't be
and
surprised.
and
Really.
this I might see as a little bit more likely, or and Dyer's Eastern Orthodox and all that stuff. It's
Well,
gonna piss you off at how dismissive Dyer is the entire time. Just like, oh no, so and so said such and such. Move on.
yeah.
That
I
kind of
mean,
hand waving nonsense.
well, I mean, to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised with any kind of behavior that comes from Dyer. You know very well, as you are part of
I'm familiar with his
our
background when it came to esoteric
yeah,
Hollywood more than
and
anything else.
you're also part of our inner group where you see what has gone down and happened, and you know very well.
Yeah.
I get the impression, and I don't want to do a show on Dyer because I don't even like talking about him, but I get the impression the guy is in it more for views and shock kind of entertainment than anything else. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're correct on that one. Like he acts. One thing I don't like about him personally is he puts on airs. And what I mean by that is he touts himself as this philosopher and yada 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 and this accomplished academic.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got a bachelor's degree. He's got a bachelor's degree. I mean, he's got more of a degree than I do. So it's like, hey, props to you, dude. But he acts like he's got a master's degree when he doesn't. And he claims that he did everything to get his master's degree except for his master's thesis or something to that effect. At least that's what I think I saw on his website. But in virtually any field of study, the master's thesis is like half your degree.
Correct.
And it has to be fully researched and a publishable work in an academic journal. And you have to defend that thesis against an oral board, just like you would as if it was a PhD dissertation. So, I mean, yeah, you have to have done that. So, no, Jay, hear it from the fat dude in Lufkin. You don't have a master's degree.
Yeah, no, you're completely correct about that, and beyond that, the kind of arguments that he erects, the kind of his behavior, is just really ridiculous. I mean,
yeah,
I learned about Dyer because he has got such a massive cult following that
really
I can't wrap my mind around it. But I learned about him because a few of his followers said, "Hey, you know what, William, you were debating all these individuals. You've got to debate Dyer." And I told him, "Well, look, I've debated Eastern Orthodox scholars. I mean, these guys are scholars."
Yeah.
And then they say, "You got to debate Dyer." And I get in touch with Dyer. This was about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And my very first experience with him is he begins to just drop F-bombs and what have you. So,
well, I mean, I do
tell
that
him,
occasionally, but generally
right,
they're in a joke.
but if somebody approaches you in a friendly manner, you act at least, like a normal human being.
You start off professional and then move on into the friendly territory.
There we go. So we offer I'm pretty sure you're well aware of this. We offered to fly Dyer out to debate me on really whatever issue he wanted. The guy acted like he was a big shot Hollywood star, said he was too busy filming whatever, couldn't do it. So really, beyond that, it really just became ridiculous. So I really don't care if there's every debate. I don't have any desire to debate Dyer, but if I would ever debate Dyer, if I were to ever debate him, which I doubt it would ever happen, it would happen in person because his behavior would that would not fly with me in person.
Hey, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to guest moderate that one.
It wouldn't happen in person.
Yeah.
I really would get a chuckle out of him trying to bark at me in person, or it wouldn't happen. Not in a million years.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, moving on a little bit further into the video, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because this kind of response back and forth about the patrilineage of Jesus goes on for a little while.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna skip ahead to about the 3-minute mark and see what pops up at us there. Okay.
Definitely.
This, I think by the time Luke was doing his interviewing, I believe it was interviewing, I think Joseph was dead already by that time.
Okay.
And we know Luke was the author of Acts.
That Luke Acts thing really puzzles me.
Right, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, Luke wasn't an eyewitness. I mean, he was not an eyewitness.
I don't think he was. I think this is a minority opinion. Yes. Would you say
I think it is a minority opinion. What you're saying?
You're admitting that it's a minority.
I will definitely give you this. I think by the time Luke was doing his interviewing, I believe it was interviewing, I think Joseph was dead already by that time.
Okay. The Isaiah prophecy. The majority say that the Isaiah prophecy, the big one, refers to the children of Israel, not the Savior. So again, are you a minority opinion on that?
About suffering servant.
Yes.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Is
Isaiah
that referring to Israel?
Isaiah 49.
The entire nation of Israel.
Isaiah 49:3 is indisputable.
So,
okay.
Would you? I'm not.
You're not talking about the virgin birth. You're talking about something else.
Yeah, he's talking about different.
I think the majority of Jewish scholars would agree with you.
Okay.
I definitely disagree, and I think that I would be in the minority when it comes to Jewish scholars.
Yeah, he's wrong.
Yeah, he's referring.
Wrong.
He's referring to probably specifically the reference in Isaiah 49:3, where he highlights, "O Israel, and said unto me, Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified." But this is obviously a KJV. But looking through this,
they're wrong. I would debate them both. In that issue alone, they're wrong.
Yeah.
Where is that again? So I can pull it up.
Isaiah 49, in particular, verse 3 is where the actual highlighted portion is at. Listen, O isles, unto... Yeah, see, this doesn't really make sense. I mean, if they're... I mean, number one, it doesn't make sense for them to be talking about Israel.
No.
Because 49:1 says, "Listen, O isles." Last time I checked, Israel is landlocked, isn't it? I mean, hang on. I want to make sure I'm not crazy here. Let's see. Okay, no, it's not landlocked, but it's definitely not an island. Yeah, because it has a coast on the Mediterranean, and no, I do not see it being an island.
Oh, it isn't. No, it is definitely not. No, it is not.
It's very much not.
No, it is not. No.
It's like, if anybody doubts that, just Google foo. It's not real simple.
And I'm looking at, will confess to you, I've not really done an in-depth exegesis in the Greek. I'm looking at the Greek right now.
Mm-hmm.
To me, what I'm gathering is an individual is being given the title Israel in a kind of symbolic type of manner. It is not talking about the nation of Israel.
Right,
I'm
because
certain about that.
49:7, thus saith the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel, and his Holy One, to whom man
Right.
despiseth. So yeah,
There we go. There we go. I mean,
that
look at what
makes it
says.
pretty clear that everything prior to this is
come
an
on.
allegorical reference.
No doubt it's allegorical. Despised and abhorred by the nation. So, I mean, look, I know, and you don't have to agree with my thesis to see certain pieces of the text being ripped out of context. You don't have to be a theist to see it. But
well,
I think it
obviously,
was
I'm not
done-
a biblical scholar. I mean,
It's in the context
the
right
furthest
there.
I got in true biblical scholarship was catechesis. Not even gonna
Right.
lie.
But you've got something called common sense, and you can tell that is definitely taken out of context.
We learned this in 5th grade, or at least I did. It's called context clues.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Read the entire context of the text, and in that is where you're going to find where the truth lies, so to speak, or at least the point of the text. And
No
while it may be considered a minority opinion that it's talking about the Savior of Israel versus the nation of Israel and the Israelite people, what have you, a really, really good breakdown of Isaiah, just the book of Isaiah, in all honesty, is done by Dr. Richard Carrier when he's going through and doing his analysis and breakdown on on what he believes is dismantling the historical Jesus.
Yeah, and you know what? Really, to stop and think for a moment, what are the atheist edge doing? They're going over arguments brought up in the debate. And let me be quite honest with you. Kind of like I told John post debate, kind of like I told the audience during Q&A. What on earth does this have to do with the virgin birth? John tossed out so many red herrings, such as this and such as other areas where really we could have a whole debate on that area alone. For me, I would have liked to have stuck to the topic for the whole debate. And I mean, I've got no issue that he wanted to bring it up, but what point does it serve?
I don't really see the point that it serves if they're talking
There's
about the
none.
Immaculate Conception, in particular the virgin birth. You know, the things that I would have brought up honestly wouldn't have had anything to do with the supernatural because, you know, first I think you have to break through that barrier of what is natural to get to anything supernatural from that.
Right.
Personally.
And so
I would have my tack.
You made a good point.
My tack is I would have started from the concept of, okay, we have heard, we have evidence in science that virgin births have occurred. It's called parthenogenesis. However, the children have always been female. It has always been a female child, and most of them, I believe, are sterile.
So
they can't have kids.
Here's a good point that you're making. And you're not supporting any side here, but here's a great point you're making. The point you're making is a point that I told him post-debate I was willing to concede, which it didn't damage my position at all. But I said I could grant to you that the virgin birth, depending on how you talk about it, could definitely have been possible without attributing supernatural elements to it. We could still say that a virgin birth would have been possible because it occurred before. I don't think the virgin birth in and of itself is the supernatural event. What I think the supernatural event is, as I would describe it, would be the fact that we as Christians, Catholics, believe that our Lord and Savior became incarnate, took flesh, and was born of a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
That is the supernatural. But we didn't debate that. We simply debated, is there evidence that the earliest individuals from the Bible and the earliest followers believed in a virgin birth? That was the whole of the debate, the whole thesis. I presented my arguments. I still think there is evidence, regardless of whether you can say, well, I mean, I don't believe him, or John could say, I don't believe him. There is plenty of evidence in the Bible and outside in the earliest eras that they truly believe it did occur.
Now, I can certainly accept that some people, may have believed that such a thing was possible, and would have attributed something like that to being supernatural. So even that's something that I guess you and I, if we had this debate, if it was you and I, would have been a big sticking point between us. Is that I would have kept hammering on the fact that, okay, we have evidence of parthenogenesis happening in nature.
Yeah, no doubt.
While it's always been a female child in the process, that doesn't completely rule out the possibility of a male child being born via parthenogenesis. Also, knowing that this is a naturally occurring process, rare though it may be, that still, even if it did happen, it doesn't support the existence of a deity.
But would
be my sticking point, is that none of this supports the notion that a deity exists at all. None of this supports the notion that this was the Son of God.
Granted, but that's a whole other debate, which I told John, to your credit, before we debated, I wanted to have that debate. That is a debate that I desired, and I would have preferred that debate. But this is in fact, the whole debate we had, it was recommended by him. So we stuck to his complete thesis, and that is what we debated. I am willing to debate anybody on that topic. I'd love to debate John again on that, but we stuck to one topic. And as you know, if you stick to that particular topic, and if you then try and hop on over to arguing against a deity and whatever, you're hopping on over to a whole other debate. And it is a completely different topic.
Well, it may be a different topic, but I still think something like that, even in a debate, would be a valid point at least to make known, and then be willing to open up a debate to that later on. But at least to address that point. But at least to address the point.
But you have admitted a virgin birth can be possible. Yet you would argue, well, you also got to, talk about
there's still a mountain of other things that have to be proven on top of that have to have evidence shown for
flesh. Let's debate that separately. And I would doing that.
And at that point, I guess that would be a really short debate otherwise. But on top of that, okay, even at that point, if you're arguing about what people believed back then, we can only look to their writings, because last I checked, there was no Dead Sea's iPod.
You're right. 100% right. But that is valid enough. That is valid enough when you are when your whole argument, when the thesis of your argument in your very book is to claim that the evidence isn't there in the Bible, and that the evidence isn't there, and I'm going to quote John, in the first 300 years of the church, that the evidence isn't there. That is a very bold statement. So during cross-examination, I just said one thing. Said, you've got a bunch of people here that are watching you, John. John has quite a following. So you got a lot of people watching you. Tell me one person in the first 300 years that didn't believe this. And when I mentioned that, I, of course, as you know, I'm talking about the church fathers. And that's a bold claim. To claim that no one believed it in the first 300 years. They did.
Now, one thing I will say is that, through the first 300 years, there is historical evidence that forgery and counterfeiting of documents was a good.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking about
was responsible for a lot of the spread of Christianity and Catholicism, but that doesn't mean people didn't believe it.
But I'll say this: I disagree there. I can't think of any document in the first 300 years that you could claim helped spread the Catholic faith. And when I mentioned the first 300 years, remember what we're talking about. We're not talking about documents. We're talking about church fathers. No church fathers. So you've got guys like Ignatius, Clement of Rome, and what have you. So I don't think there's any document. But I mean, if you can bring up one, I'd love to hear one. Remember, it's got to be one that was influential. You said that it helped to the spread of Christianity. I can't think of any in the first 300 years.
Right.
Forgery, at least, or something fraudulent.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to look that up at a separate point in
Yeah, and if you do
time.
find something,
I know I've
I'd love to hear
heard that a few different
oh
times.
yeah,
I
I've
don't have
definitely
the
heard
source
that,
right
but
up in front of me right now. But
yeah, I've heard that,
remind
but I
me,
don't.
and I'll make sure to run it down for next week.
I will remind you.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and make note of it too, just to be safe. But anyways, going that route, taking that tack with it, I don't think it's a stretch to think that people could believe that a virgin birth occurred, because we have evidence of other historical figures that are described as being born of virgin births. Like, I think it was either Sargon of Akkad or Pharaoh Snefru. One of the two of them was described as being born of a virgin. The basket of reed story, going back to Moses and the Exodus story, that dates back to Sargon of Akkad. That story about Sargon being put in a basket of reeds and floated away, that dates back 1,000+ years prior to what some scholars have said would have been the time of the Exodus.
Right.
Also, I think in the
Very
epic
different,
of
though.
Gilgamesh in the Enuma Elish, there's at least one or two virgin births referenced. I mean,
there are. I think
Richard Carrier, again, I know I keep essentially plugging his book for him. I've never even met the guy or talked to him, though I'd love to have him on the show. Don't get me wrong. But his
virgin births were common.
Say what?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Virgin births are common. The one problem, though, is that in this book here, and not just this book, you have the claim being made that not only is the virgin birth common, but you have the claim being made that that the virgin birth, the manner in which Christ died, and the resurrection could be pinpointed to several different pagan deities, and that this is definitely untrue. I mean, I've looked at tons and tons of evidence of that. There really is just there's no proof of that at all. And that was something that did come up during the debate, and I disagree with it.
Like Improving History and on the Historicity of Jesus, he brings up the list of like dying and rising gods born of virgins and this, that, and the other, with very specific criteria that they each have to meet to match.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That description and whatnot. I mean, so the concept was not new, at the very least, at least from a mythological standpoint.
Well, it depends what you mean by was the concept new, in the sense of does the person of Christ tick all the boxes in the terms of his birth, the way he was killed, and his resurrection? There is no figure that you can say this is a copycat of anything. There is none. I've seen the argument made by Carrier, and I've seen Carrier hearken to see everybody do it. Even my friend Bob Price and even Loftus hearkening to Justin Martyr, and they are dead wrong. Martyr is not any friend of their position. He's not saying what they think he's saying. So I definitely do think in those three senses, in those three areas, and many others, Jesus Christ is very unique. And I believe in the historical Christ. I think it's quite a stretch to go as far as to say that that he didn't exist. I would definitely not be on the Carrier bandwagon. Not at all.
I'm still, decidedly on the fence about the whole topic. I think we need more information. I'm not going to jump feet first into mythicism as far as that goes, but I'm not dismissing it, because number one, it's a viable possibility, because there is, well, like, for instance,
we've got the followers of Christ testifying.
the
And
whole
then
thing.
enemies. You got
The whole
enemies as
thing
well.
is, the best way I can describe it, the reason why I say mythicism could be viable is it's a story, whether true or not, plus people plus time.
Right, but
And
remember,
so,
we're not talking just about the Bible. You can still believe the Bible to be bunk, but then looking at whether or not the historical person of Christ existed is a whole other thing. I mean,
right.
you've got tons of evidence. You've got the biblical text. You've got Paul's writings. You have the early fathers, the early enemies of the faith. I mean, really, even if you do fall along those lines, I mean, the deck is stacked against mythicism, really. It's tough. I think it's a tough position to really take.
Well, like I say, I leave myself open to to most positions, unless like they can be clearly demonstrated to be utterly absurd.
Right.
So that's
And
just
Bob is a very good friend of
my
mine, and
personal take on that.
I still heavily disagree with him on that. But if anybody can give what I would say to be the best defense of the mythicist position, I wouldn't put it to be Richard Carrier. I'd put it to be Bob Price. I think Bob is far superior in every aspect to Carrier, because Bob is a biblical scholar, and Carrier really he's good at debating and defending the position.
He's a historian more than anything else.
There you go. You're right. No, you hit it. You hit it.
I mean,
Perfectly.
I think between the two, if Carrier strikes me as a slight bit of an egotist.
Yeah.
At least
honest
that's how he seems in
Let's be honest.
public. He may not be.
And let me be honest. Let's be honest. If you're going to be going for a job somewhere and you want to hear an audiobook and Audible, whose voice would you rather hear? I love Bob Price's narration.
Yeah, his narration is fantastic. I've got his audiobook
man.
for Case Against the Case for Christ.
I got to give it to Bob. He knows how to talk. He knows how to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Granted, another one who does is Aaron Ra.
I've never heard him. I've never heard him.
Foundational Falsehoods of Creationism. It's in an entire video series on YouTube, and
I will check it out.
Just listen to some of it. Like, I know you'll disagree with it because it's talking about he's disagreeing with the biblical version of something. He's disagreeing with creationism entirely. But the way he speaks, the way he presents information is very concise, but also it also has that.
I will.
It's got that academic research quality to it, much like Bob Price's does. Although Bob writes a bit more like a fiction writer, which I kind of like, honestly. He's very entertaining.
I love it. How do you pronounce it? Aaron Ra?
Aaron Ra. Aronra.
I've seen a number of debates he's done. To his credit, I see him pretty much destroy people. He's debated. I saw a debate he did on the Bible Beer Consortium, and the guy he's debating is just the guy's got sweat streaming down his face, and
But at the same time, I've seen that debate, and I'm not gonna lie. If I was on a debate stage with that many lights pointed at me,
good point,
I'd be sweating like a hog too, and that would be even when I was 100 pounds lighter. I could sweat standing still in 60-degree weather.
Yeah, no doubt. But I still think he won that debate.
Oh, hands down. I didn't like that he got so agitated. I did not like that he got so agitated in cross-ex. But the guy just really didn't seem to be getting the point. But he brutalized him on that stage.
The only thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see Aaron Ra debate better opponents. And maybe to his credit, maybe they don't come forward. I don't know what it would be.
Well,
I mean, I have no clue, but I'd like to see him reach out to more capable debaters. I've never seen him debate anybody.
The thing with Aaron is he's a lot like Matt Dillahunty. He knows what his wheelhouse is. That's what he focuses on. He's focused on science communication, and his bread and butter is dealing with the evolution debate, which personally, I don't understand why there is a debate evolution is a scientific fact, and it's a demonstrable and well-defined and well-evidenced scientific theory.
Well, I think I might be wrong, but I think I've seen Aaron debate the resurrection. I could be wrong.
That would have been several years ago when he was calling
Okay.
into radio stations, like talking to Bob Enyart and people like that. He has since kind of lasered in on what he is most educated in, and
Gotcha.
Matt
Okay.
Matt Dillahunty pretty much goes after the philosophical side of things. In all honesty, that's one of the reasons why they've referred to Aaron, Matt, and Seth Andrews, and I can't remember who the other one is, as the Four Horsemen, because Matt is very well versed and amazing at philosophy. Aaron is very well versed and amazing when it comes to scientific debate, and then Seth Andrews is amazing when it comes to political analysis and just critical analysis. And so between the three of them, there's like one other person, I can't remember who it is, but they are widely renowned, and that's what they focus on. We do have a comment from user Gregorian. Thanks for commenting in. Sorry that we're getting to you a little late. I do apologize for that. They say the biggest problem about mythicism is that there is no evidence of any Christians holding to the beliefs that the theory presupposes.
Well, if you could,
not sure.
Specify exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, Gregorian, if you would please, would love to see another comment from you. Kind of going into a bit more detail. I promise you, I will jump on it the second I see it come in. I do apologize for getting to this question 5 minutes after the fact. So give me a little bit more information about what your point is on that, and I'm happy to go into it.
Yeah, I had not noticed it either.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and bring the after show, the aftermath, or as they call it, the post-debate hot wash. Not sure where that term hot wash comes from.
I've not heard of that before.
I have not either, I will freely admit. But let's go into it a little bit more and see where we end up with. Since this one is talking about Luke and the Isaiah prophecy, so let's go ahead and jump. Oh, let's jump to about right here. Why not? Okay, cool. Got a quote from Justin Martyr.
That when you read Justin Martyr, you see it's a bit more complicated because you're quoting only one area. In that area, he does quote similarities. But if you look elsewhere...
But he admits that there were gods prior to Jesus that have died and rose again.
Granted. But if you read in another area of Justin Martyr, he does not give them ancient pedigree. He calls them copycats. So
how can they be copycats if they're older? Perseus is way before Jesus.
Granted. But remember what Justin Martyr is arguing. He's arguing that these are later forgeries. So granted, some of them may predate, and some of them do have similarities. My argument is none of them tick both boxes, dying, virgin-born, or resurrected. None of them tick both.
You're saying one or the other.
No. I didn't even mention virgin in this one. It was just dying and rising.
Right, but that is in his book.
We're talking about virgin. I mean, we're talking about the virgin birth. Why not? Why not mention virgin born?
Right.
By the way, Gregory, he did reply, Gregorian.
Yeah, he did. Okay, he says, mythicists say that Paul's Jesus was only a cosmic one, i.e. not actually having an earthly existence. That is the position presented by Richard Carrier, for sure. Okay. That much. So
they all argue that.
Yeah.
I'm not aware that they all argue that.
I don't think so. I don't even think Carrier actually really argues that. I mean, he does address the Isaiah prophecy, yes, and describes that as Jesus' descent from the seventh heaven down to the first heaven, where he's killed and then rises back up again through the levels back to the seventh heaven, or the seventh level of heaven. That's how the Isaiah prophecy is fully realized. But at the same time, that's not the entirety of it.
Mhm.
When you look at the rest, that's only one chapter in Carrier's book on the historicity of Jesus. The rest of the book is talking about all sorts of other things, some of which get into the detail of Jesus being a mythological character that gained historicity. Is more appropriately the position I would describe for mythicism. It's the argument that Jesus didn't exist; he's just purported to have existed, and that the prophetic evidence referenced in Isaiah is not proof that he was a cosmic being, but evidence that no physical Messiah would ever present themselves within the world of man.
Right.
That I think that's more accurate in covering what the mythicist position is. Now, there very well may be a mythicist out there that say point blank that Paul's Jesus was a cosmic one, plain and simple. There very well could be. I know Godless Engineer on YouTube is a mythicist, but I don't think he's a pure atheist either. I do believe I think he has said in the past that he believes in the supernatural. He believes in something. I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head. So you'd have to go look at his channel to confirm that. But the mythicist position that I've seen put forth by Dr. Price and Dr. Carrier, they do reference the Isaiah prophecy and the description of Jesus as a cosmic being or a divine being that never fully descends to earth. But that's only in using it as a bolster to the argument that no physical Jesus existed. Or at least denying that a physical Jesus, as described in the Septuagint, existed. And that's what I gathered from Dr. Price when I interviewed him, and that's what I've gathered from Carrier's book. And again, that's me personally. That's Drew with the Atheist Reformation. I could be wrong. The best people to ask that question to would be Price and Carrier. I mean, so
you will probably have Price back on.
Gregorian says, but why do we have no groups believing that a century later, at least from what we can know? It's not about them believing that. It's not about them believing that Jesus was a cosmic being and not a physical being. The references to the Isaiah prophecy made by mythicists, at least the two well-known ones that I'm aware of, is that the Isaiah prophecy is an argument against Jesus physically existing, and not that these first century Christians believed that it was a cosmic Jesus and not a physical one, but that was what it was meant all along. And in the New Testament, the way it was written as if it was a real person and not this cosmic entity. And so with the separation of time and place, you end up with a different story later on. At least that's my baseline understanding of it. Keeping it as simple as possible to avoid, bringing up my Kindle feed and opening up this. I'm not even joking. The Carrier book on the historicity of Jesus is immense. It's 700 plus pages. It's ridiculously huge as far as books go, especially nonfiction. I mean, it's on par with a dictionary. That's how long it is. So, if you want, we can kind of go through that at some point in the future. Kind of, make a show all about mythicism.
Oh, that'd be
and
incredible.
go through and break that down. And if we do that, I'd like to get Dr. Price on for that one as well, to kind of have our own little round table just about mythicism and try and answer a lot of these questions like what Gregorian is bringing up. So Gregorian,
no doubt.
I very much recommend that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. In fact, you know what? I'll go ahead. You know, got my little banner there. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and whatnot.
Bob will be on, no doubt, again.
Right, and so like I said, Gregorian, I do encourage you, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and keep an eye out. I'm definitely going to have Dr. Price back on once I get finished with his book, Jesus Christ Superstition, which is available on Amazon and Kindle. It's not on Audible yet, but I think he's planning on doing
I talked to him
reading
about
for
that. I did talk to him about that. All he was waiting for was the publisher to give him the green light, and they've gotten the green light already. He will be getting that done very soon.
Okay, he says well, apparently, I think I might have actually answered his question. Gregorian says that he kind of gets it. He guesses he just can't see such a complete change in perception of Jesus to take place so fast. Well, that's here's the thing. Let's see. The book of Isaiah was written in the 8th century BC. I mean, so that's that's close to 1,000 years between the writing of Isaiah and the Isaiah prophecy and the events described in the Septuagint. And not only that, the Septuagint is written at the very least 2 full, if not 3 full generations after the events are supposed to have happened. So you've got over 800 years, if not close to 900 years of separation between the Isaiah prophecy and what's written in the New Testament. So that's not, while that's that's not even a blink of an eye when it comes to things like geologic timescale or human or even human history in its entirety. When it comes to recorded history, that's a pretty sizable chunk of time.
No doubt,
because we have good recorded history for at least about 8,000 years or so. You're talking about an 800 to 900 year gap between the writing of the Isaiah prophecy and the writings of the New Testament. That's 10% of recorded history.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the Septuagint, Isaiah, and the New Testament.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, but the one thing that people, I mean, in case they're not aware, without a doubt, the people that were putting the Septuagint together would have had with them the Hebrew originals. They were working directly with those. I mean, there were Jews that did it.
True. So looking through there, he says that Dr. Price is like his favorite guy to listen to. He's how you came across the channel. Well, hey, you know what? I'll say it now. I told it to him when he was on during the interview. I'll say it again. Thank you, Dr. Price. You're how people are recognizing me and my channel. I love it. I'm thankful for all you guys coming over and listen to just some fat dude in Texas talk about stuff like this. I really appreciate it. I hope I entertain you all, and I hope I'm able to inform some of y'all. So if I have, great. Thank you. If not, tell me. I am always endeavoring to do better and grow my knowledge base. He says, yeah, but doesn't Carrier say that the gospel stories were originally meant as just allegory? I think he said that a couple of times in public, but I think that was prior to the writing of On the Historicity of Jesus. So I think this is actually prior to him completing his research, but don't quote me on that one. That's just a thought off the top of my head. I will have to dive into that further. And I'll have to get back to you on that one. But we are doing a show next week, and I do a Sunday show as well, generally around noon. You're welcome to chime in around that time, and if I have had time between now and then, to go through and look at that information, I'll be happy to answer that question in greater detail for you then. Also, he says, how do people forget the true intention of these gospels so quickly? I mean, people forget the true intentions of virtually any writing, and they do it very quickly. Like, for instance, it's very easy for an individual to become entirely romanticized. Like, case in point is Nikola Tesla. He was a brilliant inventor. He was very intelligent. And there were some really shady and crappy things that happened to him in his life, some of which was done by Thomas Edison himself. Edison was a great inventor. He was also a colossal douchebag. We're not going to sugarcoat it. But at the same time, because any amount of information or any amount of stigmatic events or not stigmatic or unusual events surrounding an individual, the myth of that person grows ever larger. And so now we have today where people are talking about, getting free energy and stuff like that. When something like that, if you have even a basic understanding of physics, you understand that that's impossible. You can't get something from nothing, from a philosophical nothing. You can't get something, as far as we know. And as far as we know, there's never been a philosophical nothing in this universe, to the best of our knowledge, to the best of our scientific capacity. So that's also something to take into consideration. But because of these unusual and unfortunate events that happened around Tesla's life, especially towards the end of it, we now have this romanticized view of him. He's now become more myth than man. It's the same with Harry Houdini, or Elvis and Elvis sightings, or the comedian Andy Kaufman. There were people that were very much waiting in 2014 for Andy Kaufman to just show up out of nowhere.
They really were.
Andy Kaufman died of cancer in 1984, but he made several jokes years prior to this that he think the greatest practical joke that he could ever pull on people would be to fake his death of cancer and then randomly show back up 30 years later. And then, like 4 or 5 years after he makes this joke, he's diagnosed with cancer and he dies. And so, yeah, in 2014, 30 years after 1984, people were looking all over the place trying to see if they could find Andy Kaufman, because they honestly thought that he was bullshitting and he was going to come back. I mean, so it's very easy. And note that everything that I've talked about have been, from a historical standpoint, incredibly short periods of time. Tesla, a century. Kaufman, that's 36 years. That's it. 36 years. I mean, historically, that's no time at all. But so much changes in even that short span of time, especially since the Industrial Revolution, that things are easily romanticized. I mean, so it's just kind of an unavoidable thing. Now, you stretch that from 35, 40 years to 800 years at the minimum. In all honesty, it should be expected at that point, for even with having access to the text, there to be some misconception, there to be some misunderstanding, there to be some change, whether it be due to politics, societal progression, language and linguistic alterations, because languages do evolve. They're not living organisms, but they do change over time as they encounter other languages and other speakers. or they may not have had a hold of the best available translation at the time. All of these things could play factors in a situation like that, Gregorian. And I think, William, even though he disagrees, I'm sure he disagrees with the mythicist position, would at least be willing to grant on a logical standpoint that any one of those things could be, at least in theory, possible.
Yeah, I really do disagree with it. Language does evolve; it does change. I mean, we go from the early fathers talking primarily Greek to Latin to various different languages as time goes on. The Greek evolves as well. The Greek from John of Damascus is different from the Koine Greek we're kind of used to. So yeah, no doubt language does evolve.
Not to mention the shifts in Hebrew and the fact that Hebrew was a dead language for 5 centuries.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. Yeah, but I do disagree with the mythicist position. I don't think it's tenable.
And that's fine. It's like, and I acknowledge that from the get-go. I know you disagree with that, but you at least understand where I'm coming from in addressing those and looking at those key issues.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I understand the concerns that are there.
Right. So let's go ahead and look through a little bit more of this post-debate hot wash. Gosh, that's my new favorite thing. Oh, wait, no. Gregorian, pop back up again. So I'll give him a little bit more time on this. Or she, whoever. When does Carrier place the writing of the Gospels? I'm guessing he wants to place them earlier rather than later, if he in fact does think they're purely allegorical in nature. As far as his placement, I think he actually agrees with most modern scholarship on that, in that it was written at least 2 or 3 generations post-crucifixion, if not later than that. I know there are some writings from the New Testament, I believe, not Mark, but dadgummit, one of them reference being written like 90 plus years after, as far as that goes. No, Gregorian, I'm not going to ignore your comments, man. I love the viewer interaction, like especially right now that I'm a small channel, so I have the ability to address as many, if not all, comments that come in as of right now. And so I would like to keep doing that for as long as I possibly can. So, yeah, it may interrupt the flow of the show a bit here and there. I know William doesn't mind.
Not at all.
And
Not at all.
we love questions.
We're going to be doing more of this.
Absolutely. And we're going to start seeing a revival of the beer stream, all that fun stuff.
Oh, no doubt. In fact, I'm not going to spoil it, but I've got a few goodies there.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I still have one that I haven't showed you yet. It's been in the refrigerator so long it may have gone skunk on me by now, but I should be able to find another bottle if need be. If not, hey, I'm from Texas. We don't waste beer here.
We do not.
If it skunks, you drink it anyway.
No doubt.
And sometimes that actually makes it better, oddly enough. Like,
I'm with you there.
I will say 2 things. I despise Natty Light, but Natty Light, if it skunks on you, actually tastes a little bit like Miller, and so it's a bit more bearable.
Wow.
That being said, I'm not a fan of Miller because I drink real beer, not American Pilsners. But, call me a snob as far as that goes. But at the end of the day, we still adhere to the man code or bro code, whatever you want to call it, of if you receive a beer for free, your favorite brand is whatever you hand me, and your second favorite is cold.
You hit it right there. That is exact. Oh, man. I am a humongous beer snob. But if I go somewhere and there's Michelob Ultra and it is ice cold and they hand it to me, I'm not a beer snob for that moment I'm drinking it.
Exactly.
I'm gonna drink it.
It's called being a gracious guest as much as a gracious host.
No
Well,
doubt.
thank you for the thumbs up, Gregorian. So let's go ahead and dive right back into the video, at least a little bit here. We've talked about the quote from Justin Martyr and the fact that it's still talking about virgin birth at this point. So I'm going to jump ahead to this section here. It's talking about the similarities between Gilgamesh and Genesis. And so I'm now kind of staying within just kind of looking at the slides that they bring up, because I think those are going to be a bit more interesting than the actual conversation itself, at least as of right now. I did actually watch this entire video like 2 or 3 different times. And for full context, as always, please, in fact, I made a banner for them here, because I want this to be acknowledged as fair use. We're offering a critique and we're reviewing this information. So in its entirety, please support Atheist Edge on YouTube. The link to this video is in the description down below if you want to go watch it in its entirety. Throw them a comment, throw them a like, give them a thumbs up, subscribe to them, what have you. They do some good work over there. In fact, their channel in some ways has some similarities to mine in their approach to things. They're very respectful to both sides, and they're, much like the tagline for my show, are searching for truth and not capital T truth. We're looking for the truth of the matter, and we don't care where it leads, as long as it's accurate and reliable information at the end. So here, similarities between Gilgamesh and Genesis. Gilgamesh, in anger, the gods decided to destroy humanity in a flood, but Utnapishtim survives in a large boat. Okay, so this is talking about the mythological similarities in the global flood, as far as that goes. I've addressed this in earlier videos with you.
Yeah, we did a whole show on it. Yeah.
With you. And I'll go ahead and do it again here. Save people having to dig through hours of content. A global flood, as described in Genesis, could not happen. Period. Right. End of story. It defies all laws of physics. That makes it physically impossible.
It was definitely centralized.
Yeah. If you go and watch, I think it may be the second or third video that I did with Harry on my Sunday service show. We talk about the flood of Noah, largely in comedic terms, talking about how, okay, people think it's this big global thing, but we know how stories can start small and get blown out of proportion over time, and so that maybe this is the case of just some dude's Uncle Bubba in the middle of nowhere, through some. There was a big flood coming, or one of the lakes overflowed or something, and he threw his livestock onto his boat, and he jumped on there and held on for dear life and rode out the waves that came in. And then over time, that uncle gets a little toasty at a couple of family meals, and the story grows and grows from there until it arrives at what we see in Genesis, and describing the entire world being covered in water, as far as that deluge goes.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the there are definitely no doubt similarities, but the way this is laid out is quite misleading. Even if you look down there, the immortality from eating the plant compared to what Adam had the chance of doing with the tree of life is very misleading. So the way it's set out, it's incorrect. Especially because we're not taught that had Adam eaten from the tree of life that he would have been immortal. What we're told really is that he would have continued to be able to eat, and he would have been able to, for the rest of his life, he would have been able to have sustained his life by continuing to eat from it. The tree would have eventually died. It was finite. You know, the tree in and of itself wasn't infinite. So the image in the text doesn't mean that he would have been granted immortality just merely from eating from the tree of life. It's kind of misunderstanding the language that is being used there.
Right.
And
On
it
that,
does fit
on that
more in
last
line
point,
there.
on that last
I
point,
mean,
I can
yeah.
kind of agree with you to the extent that at least that last point on the side of Genesis, that I think is more due to pastoral interpretation
There you go. There you go.
than what's explicitly stated in the text. But the other three, are very well founded. And
I mean, they're generic. I mean, his ark lands on the mountains, and that character's boat lands somewhere. I mean, something's going to land or something's going to stop somewhere.
well,
after
no,
a
but
flood.
specifically lands on a mountain. It's the consistent similarity, like the destroying
it's a
humanity in a
stretch.
flood, survives in a large boat, happens in both of those. Lands on a mountain after the flood, happens in both of those.
I would
After
have to
after the
read
flood,
where
sending
it talks about the dove and that.
Utnapishtim sends out a dove, swallow, and raven. After the flood, Noah sends out a raven and a dove. So the only discrepancy there is the missing of a swallow bird in
Yeah,
there,
so
and for
I mean,
whatever
you have
reason, my
you've got a
mind
difference
instantly
there
goes to
already.
Monty Python references.
So I mean, you've got a difference there already. I mean,
Yes, but it's a
to
very
me,
small difference, and it's not, and it's but
right,
the overall is the same.
but I disagree. It seems like the same because of the way it's laid out. I mean, I could do this for anything.
Well, no, I
could
mean,
make
like,
the
I've actually
language
read the
sound-
Epic of Gilgamesh. Like, I've read the story of Utnapishtim from the Enuma Elish. No, it reads like
Okay.
the sequence of events is essentially identical.
Just the event in Adam with Adam alone, the fact that that is nowhere even near similar, that throws it all off. The wording here is so particular that it sounds like they're carbon copies, but they're not. Even if there's just one difference, there's still a difference. There's so many stories that can be similar.
True, but there again,
I mean-
it does say the title of it is Similarities Between Gilgamesh and Genesis, not Carbon
but they're
Copy
worded.
Between Gilgamesh.
Right, but
But that's
the way
the
they're worded,
point that we make when
you
we
would
talk
think.
about things like that, is
Yeah,
that
but
there
the way
are
they're
these
worded-
there are these very distinct and very obvious similarities from one story to the next. And so to atheists like
Right.
myself, dismissing one due to it being a mythological story is no different than dismissing another.
But the way they're worded here is done in such a manner that it's made to seem like they are almost carbon copies of another. I have no idea, for instance, the veracity of the dove, the swallow, and a raven. Is that
No,
verified?
that's straight
Okay.
from the Enuma Elish. That is
I
out of
have
the
not
story of
seen that.
Utnapishtim. In fact, like I can confirm the stuff about Utnapishtim from the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elish. No, all of that accurate. Like that's accurate. And in comparison to the facts pulled from Genesis about Noah, those are accurate as well. And so those similarities are rather stark.
And then I'm looking at this here, and there's some variants that have the Gilgamesh of him landing on a rock, not even a mountain. I mean, come on.
No,
I mean,
it doesn't say a rock. It says a mountain.
I'm reading it right here.
Utnapishtim's boat lands on Mount Nasir.
I'm reading right here, tablet 11, landed on a rock. I'm reading right here. So, I mean, there is that as well. I'll be honest, I have not done enough research on this, but just the mere fact that they're already it's so easy to already poke holes to this. I can see definitely, no doubt, I can see similarities. But if somebody were to then follow along the lines of saying they're carbon copies, I mean, I would disagree there. But even at that, completely aside from it, and not your fault at all, but completely aside, what did this have to do with the virgin birth? Why would John be bringing this up?
So
he did bring it up in his opening for a while. He dealt with that, and he dealt with it in his rebuttal. you can admit, even if you do agree, even if you say, you know what, William, you're crazy. I think it is copied, or I think the Bible clearly borrowed from it. You have to at least admit you're going a little bit off topic, talking about other things rather than sticking to the issue of the virgin birth.
True. Well,
John
this
should
being
have
a
stuck.
debate aftermath kind of thing, and so I
No, no,
think
no, no.
this
But
is
no. But what he was doing was he was talking about something John had brought up. That is why he
oh,
brought it up.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm not putting the blame on the atheist edge. John
Yeah.
brought it up,
That's
and
right.
that
Yeah,
doesn't
you're right.
appear
You're
in
right.
here. Yeah,
That slipped my mind when I skipped ahead to
mhm.
that, and I had forgot that
Yeah.
John did bring that up. Like
John's the one that brought it
it was
up.
like 45 seconds prior to that he brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah, John's the one that brought it up.
Yeah. So I think at this point, I know you've got some family coming in tonight, and
I do. I sure do. And
it's
I'm gonna
right
have
at
to.
9 o'clock right now. So I think we're going to go
Yeah.
ahead and shut this down for now. We
Yeah, but
hope
we
to
will be
see the
back.
rest. We hope to see the full debate pop up on Bible and Beer Consortium very soon, and we'll jump
doubt.
right on that and get a show done on that. If not, next week I will. There will be an announcement come out in the form of a notification to all those. So click the bell icon so you get some notifications from this channel
We'll be back.
as to when next week we are going to review the Matt Dillahunty and Matt Winger debate from Capturing Christianity. So be looking out for that and be ready for it. Any words of wisdom, anything you'd like to say to the audience before we close out tonight, William?
I had a great time. Glad to be back here. Can't wait to come back for another show. Can't wait to get the beer stream going again. And
Absolutely.
can't wait for the debate to come out so we can cover it in even more detail and
Yes.
hit the real hard, really cover the nitty gritty and the meat and potatoes of the arguments. And we'll do that in the coming weeks. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun.
Definitely so. And out of respect for Bible and Beer Consortium, we are not going to air the entire debate on this channel. For instance, I don't plan on airing any of the cross-sects on here at all. If you want to watch that, go watch it on Bible and Beer Consortium. What I mainly want to focus on are opening arguments, closing arguments, and the rebuttals. And we might touch on some of the audience Q&A. If there's like a really good question in there. Other than that, I want to keep it to just the information that the debaters prepared for that night.
There we go.
So aside from that, please remember to support the Atheist Edge on YouTube. They do a phenomenal job. I really appreciate them making this video. Where that was available to us to use tonight. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Click that bell icon so you see some notifications from us. Also, you know what? If you're crazy enough, I do have Patreon links on some of my videos. You can also check out William at www.patristicpillars.com. There's not a link in this video description. I will correct that tomorrow. But any other video you see that has me talking to William that's labeled Beer Stream or guest William Albrecht, his website's listed in there. So go click on those, click on that, and look at his website. Other than that, thank you all for tuning in tonight, and hope you'll have a great evening. Thanks for coming out.
Be safe.